I'm Bill. I was transferred from the headquarters to a newly established branch office in a certain region of Upper Midwest. It was a few weeks after that. When I returned from the smoking lounge, there was a woman chatting in front of the branch manager's desk. I recognized her instantly. Her short hair and dignified posture, unchanged from our college days. She is a popular person who doesn't know how to flatter people, but for some reason is liked by everyone. Isn't that Catherine? It's not just isn't that. I came to see how you're doing at work, and you're on a smoke break. You two were in the same class. We also went to the same university. And I added, she used to be my boss in the previous department. You came all this way just to see me. When I asked, she waved her hand, denying it, and said she was in town for a friend's wedding. Turns out, this branch office is located in her hometown. After a bit of small talk with the branch manager, she whispered to me as she was leaving. Bill, are you free tonight? How about dinner? Sounds good. Let's catch up after all this time. Ever since college, I called her Catherine, and she called me Bill. Even after joining the company and her becoming my boss, that didn't change. We still spoke informally, just like our college days. That evening, as planned, we had dinner together. The place she chose was a restaurant in a downtown hotel. You're staying here, but Catherine, your family home is right nearby, isn't it? As we sat down, I asked her why she'd book a hotel when her family home was so close. I told you before, I'm not exactly on great terms with my family. Come to think of it, in college she used to go home for summer and winter breaks, but after she started working, she rarely visited. I remembered. I had always let it slide, but this time I asked her straight up. What happened? You had a fallout with them? She sighed, shaking her head. It's not exactly a fallout, it's just, I don't know how to explain it. Her parents, especially her dad, were always concerned about appearances, always talking about what the neighbors are doing, what's normal in society. When I was about to start elementary school, I wanted a blue backpack instead of a red one, but they said blue isn't ladylike. From that point on, she began to resent her parents' old-fashioned and rigid values. It came to a head when she got a job in New York after college. Her parents had always assumed she'd returned home after graduating. They expected her to settle down and start a family. Not necessarily with a local guy, but they believed it was her duty as the eldest daughter to live within their reach. Anyway, it was so exhausting that I decided to cut ties. Instead of her somewhat traditional younger brother stayed with the parents because he was the eldest son. I could understand her feelings, but I wondered if that was the right decision. Speaking from my own experience, I get it, Catherine. Remember when I was deep into my band days? I had a big fight with my parents too. I kept my distance. When you were skipping lectures and almost losing credits, as I nodded, she laughed. Well, that's understandable. Your parents were also worried about Bill's future. I didn't fail any courses, but looking back now, I kinda feel the same. Whether old-fashioned or whatever, parents have their values. Back then, I distanced myself from my parents because our values clashed. But after they passed away, I began to think that maybe I should have tolerated their strong opinions a bit more, acknowledged where I agreed, and at least shown up to see them once in a while. The point is, no matter what our parents say, we just have to be ourselves, right? Upon hearing my words, she gently brushed her long curled lashes upward with her index finger. A habit of hers when she's deep in thought. We spent the next 3 hours chatting about work and reminiscing before parting ways. The next evening, as I was preparing to leave the office, I wondered if the wedding she attended had wrapped up. Just then, my phone in my inner pocket rang. It was her. Bill, it's Catherine. Can you come with me to my family home? After the wedding, she returned to her hotel and got a call from her younger brother. He said their father had had an accident. Knowing she was back in town, he wanted her to visit. I'm not sure how to face them. It's tough to go alone. What else can I do? All right, I got you. I'll come with you. As I headed towards her hotel, I couldn't help but think the timing was a bit too convenient. When we reached her family home, her younger brother greeted us with a big grin. The story about their father's injury was a complete fabrication. "Well, I knew you wouldn't come home otherwise, right?" Upon hearing that, Catherine gave me an exasperated look. I introduced myself briefly and said she felt awkward coming alone, so she asked me to come. I gave a knowing nod, and her brother ushered us inside. I nudged Catherine, who seemed hesitant, to go in first, and I followed. We were led to a spacious living room. Sitting around the large coffee table, Catherine and I took seats opposite her father, her younger brother to the right, and her mother to the left. Catherine was silent, so I took the initiative. "I've been recently transferred here, now that we have a new branch in town," I began, laying my business card on the table, facing her father. Her father took it, glanced at it briefly, then handed it to her mother. Her mother, staring intently at my business card, was muttering my name to herself, over and over again. "Wait, are you the Bill from college?" Her mother nailed it, and I nodded, a bit surprised. When I looked at the girl next to me, she also had a surprised look on her face. "Bill, you were into music, played in a band, didn't you?" "Yes, I did. Surprised you know." It felt strange to be called by my first name, let alone with a friendly diminutive, by someone I just met. Knowing about the band made it even more puzzling. "Hey, calling him Bill like that is so rude," she rebuked her mother. Then her mother bowed her head and apologized to me. "I'm sorry, dear. It's just an old habit." An old habit. According to her mother, it was something like this. She was still returning to her family home for the holidays during college. She used to talk about me a lot to her mother. At that time, she would refer to me as Bill, just like she usually did, and her mother would respond, calling me Bill. When I asked if you two were dating, she said, "It's not like that, but what about now?" "It's still not like that." "Yes, it's definitely not like that." Both of us protested in unison, but her mother just smiled silently, looking at us alternately. She doesn't believe it, I can see it on her face. She must be misunderstanding. That was when it happened. If that's the case, what kind of relationship is it? Suddenly her father spoke from across the table. "We work at the same company, entered at the same time. Well, to be precise, we had a boss-subordinate relationship. Oh, the boss is your daughter. Catherine is your boss, your own. How can you say something so embarrassing without any shame?" Feeling the conversation was going sideways, I couldn't remain silent. So I told them. There is nothing embarrassing about it. We joined the company at the same time, and she got promoted before me because she's excellent. I'm actually proud of her. You should feel shame if you're being surpassed by a woman. That's when she intervened. This is why it's so frustrating. This kind of old-fashioned thinking that men are superior and imposing that belief on others. I remembered what she had said about her parents the night before while we were dining and found myself nodding in agreement. "Bill, you understand, right?" "Indeed, it's pretty outdated." As we were whispering to each other, her father, who was listening, raised his voice. "Are you okay with being called Bill so casually by a woman?" Her mother tried to stop him. "Mind your own business, it's our concern, and you have no right to interfere." I stepped in to calm her down. Suddenly, I noticed her younger brother. He was sitting cross-legged, swinging his body back and forth, a curious smile on his face, enjoying the view from a safe distance. In such a chaotic situation, we eventually left her family home. I feel like I made things more complicated by being there. I apologized, and she replied that if she had been alone, she wouldn't have spoken a word. She was actually glad she could speak her mind. Then, she gently brushed her eyelashes with her finger. She seemed to be thinking about something. "By the way, your dad is quite something," I said, and she replied. I was angry not just because of what Dad is like, but I feel there was more to it. I asked her what else had made her angry. It's because he spoke ill of you. Looking at her, she gave a slight smile. I smiled back. I think I was also upset about him implying something about having a female boss, about him criticizing you. We walked in silence, lost in our thoughts. We've known each other for over 10 years now. Doesn't it feel like we grew up together? Indeed. Thinking about the time since we met, a question crossed my mind. Why are we, she and I, in this kind of weird, close relationship? When we had just joined the company, there was a time when she and I were waiting alone in a meeting space for our mentor, who was in charge of training. She asked for a sip of the coffee I was drinking from a paper cup. So, I handed her the cup. She took a sip and handed it back to me. I put the cup to my mouth again. The mentor, a senior who came in late, saw this, asked if we were that kind of close. When I asked what he meant by that kind of close, he clarified, asking if we were in a romantic relationship. She and I laughed it off and denied it. However, for our mentor, it seemed quite unusual to see two people sharing a drink from the same cup, and a rumor started circulating in the office that for a while, she and I were considered a couple. She and I, thinking let those who want to believe it, found explaining every time too silly and just let it be. In fact, she and I never once dated as man and woman. But that doesn't mean we were just friends. If I must say, maybe more than friends but less than lovers. Remember, Catherine, how we were rumored to be a couple at the company? It was when we just joined, wasn't it? She snickered a reminiscent laugh. We let the rumors go, but if we had gone around telling people it was a misunderstanding, what would you, Catherine, have told them? You suddenly remember strange things. What do you think you would have said? She, as usual, flicked her eyelashes. Simply, we're not dating, maybe. To her finally conceived answer, I said, how about we missed our chance to date? We missed our chance. It makes sense to us, but it wouldn't convince others. I guess I would have been bombarded with what does that mean? Questions. She nodded heavily. We missed our chance to date. She agreed with the words I said, saying that we understood because it was us. Thinking back, there were times when I had a girlfriend or when we broke up, she had a boyfriend. Maybe the timing was never right, and we missed our chance to date. So now, we're both single. Hey, Catherine, should we start dating? I was thinking the same thing. We looked at each other. It was the right choice to visit your family home. Oh, why's that? Because, thanks to that, we came to this conclusion. I see. Sometimes going home isn't bad, then. Thus, she and I started dating as man and woman, more than 10 years after we met. In the beginning, it was all just awkward. I was working at a branch office and she was at the head office. We weren't long distance, but we couldn't meet every day. But gradually, the thought of seeing each other anytime turned into a desire to be with each other all the time. And about 6 months after I last visited her family home, during New Year's, she came to my apartment. I'm going to my family home. Why don't you come along, Bill? I'm not too keen on it. I'll have to see them at some point. I made up my mind. I then confirmed whether she had informed her parents about my going. Yeah, I've asked my younger brother to do it. I felt a bit uneasy. I wondered if her younger brother had communicated properly. And wasn't he just standing back and enjoying the high ground with his cheeky inputs? That evening, I was taken to her home by her. At the entrance, her brother and the mom greeted us warmly. So it was indeed Bill. Catherine's mom seemed pleased, as if her intuition had been correct. This means her younger brother hadn't informed her parents who Catherine was bringing. Seeing his smirking face, I inadvertently sighed. The real issue is her dad. No matter what he says, keep cool, Bill. I braced myself and entered the battlefield with Catherine. Her dad was sitting heavily in the living room. As before, Catherine and I sat side by side, her dad opposite us, Mom to the left, and her younger brother to the right of the coffee table. It's been a while. What's the word? It would have been enough to say I apologize, but the words didn't come out. So, I just bowed my head. Catherine's dad kept a stern silence. Please, make yourself comfortable, Bill. Her mom intervened. Her younger brother, sitting to the right, smirked. Come on, Dad, say something. Catherine was already confrontational. I held her back. She kept staring at her dad. Then her dad spoke. Hey, serve them some food. But I'm tired of traditional dishes. What do you want? He asked Catherine. Caught off guard, she replied she was fine with anything. Then her dad asked me. And I too replied any would do. Her dad sighed and clicked his tongue in exasperation. And he said, This won't do, let's have pizza, order pizza. Hearing this, a flustered Catherine said, No, don't trouble yourself, anything is fine, not necessarily pizza. That's when her brother interjected. Sis, you might not know, but Dad's recently hooked on delivered pizza. This was unexpected. I wondered whether he was indifferent to whether the delivery person was a man or a woman. The thought came and went. When the pizza arrived, Catherine and her mom started preparing the table. Her younger brother turned on the TV. Listening to the Christmas special show on TV, we all sat around the coffee table. Mom told younger brother to also eat the salad. While eating pizza, the dad asked me, Do you eat your favorite toppings first, or do you save them for last? I replied that I saved them for last. There was no response to that. Instead, he started saying this. What do you think of American-style pizza? Don't you find it absurd? If you want to eat American food, you wouldn't order pizza, would you? Younger brother, getting tired of listening, turned his body toward the TV screen, nibbling on his pizza. I think it's fine to have American pizza, it's a matter of preference. When I answered, her dad asked her the same question. She replied similarly to me. Her dad snorted, looking unamused. Then, her mom said, Dad, why don't you try it next time? Her dad sulked in silence. The conversation didn't continue after that. We just gathered in the living room, munching pizza together. But it felt nice. I thought this is what family is all about. When I looked at her, she was also relaxing and smiling. She noticed my gaze and whispered in my ear. It's not bad coming back family home once in a while. It's nice, isn't it? Is that so? Then, when's the next time? I asked, and she said I'm rushing things and laughed. How was it? Subscribing to the channel will be an encouragement for production. See you again in the next video.